Thank you so much. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised that so many of you are here because I know that after dinner, a lot of people just go home because, well, the food is out, so why stay? Yes, today I want to talk about the thing that we did a year ago. We did the biggest bug bounty in WordPress history. It ended up with removing around 1,000 plugins from the WordPress repository. And I want to tell you how it happened and what we can learn from this, because it's not something that's usual to remove 1,000 plugins during a month, right? So I will start with a very unpopular opinion, and this is something that I always like to ask at every non-WordPress conference about, is WordPress secure? And in most cases I hear it's not. I don't agree. I think that WordPress is secure. We are talking about the biggest CMS out there that powers over 40% of all the websites. So, you know, it's a dream of every hacker to find a big, juicy vulnerability that will give you access to all those websites, right? And you know what? They are failing. Every year, we are finding around 7 vulnerabilities in the WordPress core. That's it. And none of them are severe vulnerabilities. So I can easily say that WordPress is one of the safest CMS, at least in the open space. There is just one tiny catch. If you don't use any plugins. And tell me, how many of you love to use WordPress out of the box without any plugins? 1. 2. So yes, most of us love using plugins. Why? Because they are amazing. With one click, we can convert our WordPress site to whatever we want. It can become a store, it can become a learning platform. I even found a plugin that will convert your website into a wine catalog. Sadly, it had a vulnerability, that's why I learned about it. But still, plugins gives you a lot of opportunities, but it's also the biggest danger to the whole ecosystem. As you can see, plugins are responsible for 96% of vulnerabilities that are found in the WordPress ecosystem. Rest is themes and those 7 vulnerabilities that were discovered in core. So yeah, definitely, plugins are a problem. Also, we can see that year after year, we, and by we I mean PatchStack, WordFans, WP Scan, if they are still reporting something, we are finding more and more vulnerabilities each year. I hope that at some point we will get to the point where we will get to the point from which we will start finding less vulnerabilities. But based on the numbers that I checked a few minutes before the talk, this won't be this year. This year probably we will have more of them. And you can also see on this graph that we are finding more and more severe vulnerabilities. So, and if someone would think, okay, so probably that's a bad sign. In WordPress there are more and more vulnerabilities. No, that's a good sign, because this means that finally we are finding them, and if we are finding them, we can inform the authors, we can address them, we can do something about it. So the authors can either fix them, which is the best scenario, or the plugin team can just remove them from the repository, which is also something. And you know, today I will be concentrating mostly on the official repository. You know, the official repository that, based on the header, has over 60,000 plugins. That's a lot. That's a lot. There is no other repository that is that big. Also, we are talking about the repository that is very easy to add something to it. You just go through an initial check and your plugin is inside. And let's remember, this is the official repository. That repository about everyone will tell, you probably heard it during a lot of talks. Remember to install plugins just from safe sources, like the official repository. Right? That official, it means a lot. On the other hand, before I will go with what happened last year, I have to tell you a bit about what is PatchStack doing every month. So we have a regular bug bounty program. How many of you know how bug bounty program works? Okay, so I will explain a bit more. This is a very simple thing. In short, we have security researchers that most of you probably know as hackers, and they find vulnerabilities in WordPress plugin, themes, core. For every vulnerability they discover, after we verify it, they get experience point. We decided to gamify it a bit. It's more fun this way. Based on the amount of experience point they get, they have some place in the leaderboard. And based on the place in the leaderboard, they earn money. And we repeated this cycle every month. So this is one of the best models when it comes to security. You just pay people who know how to find vulnerabilities to find them. That's it. Simple as that. You just need money. But back then, so a year ago, our bug bounty program had two very important limitations. First of all, we only were interested in plugins and themes, but because plugins are the most, I will use plugins for they had to have over 1,000 installs. And remember this number because you will see why it's so important. And on the other hand, they had to be updated in the last 3 years. We didn't care about those smaller ones and those that we thought that are abandoned. And in October last year, because you know, the cybersecurity month and stuff like this, we decided to do a special event. We wanted to clean the repository as much as possible. So we decided to change our rules a bit for this month. So every low install count plugin was counted as it would have this 1,000. We removed the limitation of 3 years since the last update. And those exceptions applied only for vulnerabilities that has CVS score of 6.5, which means that they are pretty serious. So, with this in mind, we started. So, on 1st of October, we just announced it on our Discord. We told about the rules, and that's all we could do. Already on 4th of October, we saw that we had already 90 valid reports. That was a good sign, but we know that security researchers are smart enough that if they know that during the previous month they don't have a chance to advance in the leaderboard, they sometimes just hide some findings and wait for another month to start submitting this. Because why not? This will give them a bigger chance to earn more money. So while this number was cool, we thought, yeah, maybe it's just because of it. And yeah, it was. Because on 7th, we already saw that the number of submissions started to plateau. It was 123. So, yeah. But around the half of the month, it started growing. We weren't sure what happened until the 16th of October, when one of the researchers said that finally I downloaded the whole repository. And then we learned a few interesting things. So, for example, let's start with, how do you handle reporting of so many vulnerabilities at once? You don't just try to find a plugin. First, you find a vulnerability, then you try to build a regex rule, and then you search through the rest of the repository. Remember when I told you that before we asked people only for reports for plugins that had more than 1,000 installs? And that's the thing. Do you know how many plugins in the WordPress repository have less than 1,000 installs? 50,000. 50,000 out of 60,000 back then had less than 1,000 installs. So it turned out we were running a bug bounty for only a small part of the WordPress repository. To be honest, we were kind of shocked. Another thing, if you are wondering how much does the whole repository weight, it's 62 gigabytes. At least that's what Stealthcopter said. So around 16 October, it meant that most of the researchers finally downloaded the whole repository, and we knew that the submitting will start. And we started to get flooded with reports. And we decided, okay, if it's going so well, let's make it a bit more spicy. So we said, if you will report over 1,000 or more reports altogether, everyone who reported 10 reports or more will get extra $100. I mean, it worked. This was a real situation where at some point our CEO, Oliver, posted on, I think, X that, hey, we crossed 600 reports. The moment when I saw the tweet, we already had 672. And it was growing like this. Our research team weren't doing any proper research. They were just triaging what it was incoming. And we had a huge backlog. We couldn't keep up with that. On 25th, we crossed the 1,000. You can see that I was announcing that we have 999, and a few minutes later, Kinrod said, okay, we crossed it, 102. So we did it on 25th October, and like I said, we had a huge backlog. On 21st October, also, people started to realize that something is happening. So Enrique Chavez, who turns out is monitoring the repository, saw that 1,000 plugins are gone from the repository. What is happening? And because it was the time of the famous WordCamp US, people really didn't know what is happening, why 1,000 plugins are gone from the repository. It was us and the review team that was working very, very swiftly. So on 4th of November, you can see that Stealthcopter has 4,370 points, and second place Kinrod has 1 point less, and we have still 4 reports to review. Really, the emotions were so high. I don't remember any football match that was so exciting than following the stats back then. Everyone was really, I'm not sure if there weren't any bets happening in the background, at least not non-official ones. In the end, on the 5th November, Kinrod won by 2 points. And while Kinrod with his 275 reports and Stealthcopter with 121, okay, that's huge. But the guy on the 3rd place, so ProBro, he's on his own reported more than 500 reports. It's huge. We don't know how he did it. I mean, kudos, but still, we don't know how. So, even Kinrod mentioned that during the last 24 hours, and those 24 hours were very crucial for him, he didn't sleep at all. He was just reporting whatever he could, and he did it. And there were 2 absolute favorites that we found. This one. You could log, if the plugin was activated, and if you added a correct ID, so if you just try to enumerate, it was very simple, you got logged in as this user. What's interesting, the same vulnerability was available in a few plugins by different authors. So we could call it a classic. Another one was a bit more complicated, and I must say that I like it a bit more, because like I said, this is a bit primitive one, right? But this one was really cool. There was a registration endpoint, and if the username was already taken, it logged you in as this user. Transparency 101. Amazing, truly. So, yes, those were great, and those were sitting in the repository for quite a while. But while we were kind of running this and organizing this, it wouldn't be possible without them. Those are the names of all the researchers that reported at least one report and made it possible. That huge applause should now happen for them, because they really did. Yeah, really, without them, we would have 10 vulnerable plugins in the repository. Okay, so the bug bounty was over. Everyone was tired, even the researchers. So let's sum up the numbers. In general, we found vulnerabilities in 1,536 plugins and 35 themes. Then this is the very sad part. We had to report more than 1,000 of them to the WordPress review team. Why? Because we could not contact the authors. So that's one thing you should learn. If you have a plugin, really make sure there is how to contact you and make sure it's up to date. Because 1,000 plugins didn't have it and we couldn't find any way. And believe me, we have a lot of experience in finding emails. More than, like you see, 270 reports were very severe. I mean, the two examples that I showed, they were like, I think they were tens because it was an unauthenticated vulnerability, so the worst one. Everyone could do it. And the happy part, we could pay to all those security researchers $70,000. I think that's good. They totally deserved it. What was also fun, WordFans did a very similar event month after. If I remember, they had around 700 reports, so less. We don't know how many of them were closed, but still, altogether, in 2 months, we did a huge cleaning of the WordPress repository. So, what were the consequences? In the end, because some of the authors in the end responded, 946 plugins got removed from the repository. What's interesting, and we were really happy from it, one author that didn't update his plugin for 10 years made a security update. So we were really happy because it was nice that he did it. The problem is that a lot of people will never learn that they are using a plugin that got removed. Because, you know, WordPress has a really great update system that informs you about everything, that gives you so many ways to update a plugin, a theme. You can do it in so many ways. It's really great. I love to always tell it about on other conferences that WordPress did it really good. But when it comes to notifying about closed plugins, I mean, there is one place you have to go to the repository and there you will see it. There is an open ticket since 12 years? I think 12 years, yeah, Jos is nodding, so yeah. 12 years and no progress. So yeah, that's bad. As Patchstack, we also learned a lot from this, because we were already running our bug bounty for 2 years, and we were really surprised by how this small change of rules changed everything. So from that on, we learned that those old and less popular plugins also need a lot of attention, because they are in the repository. And like I said, in the repository, in the official one, the one we should trust. So we should also take care of it. And we changed the rules that right now you can report any plugin. Like I mentioned, contacting is the biggest pain. And this did not change at all. Lately, I changed my role a bit at Patchstack, and I'm also taking care of reporting vulnerabilities to vendors. Believe me, it's sometimes so difficult to find a way to contact a company and what's interesting, sometimes they even have huge sites about trust, security, they list all the certificates, but there is no email where I can send it. And so really, it's still the biggest pain for us, spending time on finding ways to contact you. So if you have a plugin, please do a small update and make sure you have a way to contact you. We will be more than thrilled.
Maybe you could give them a reward.
We can think about it. We can think about it. Okay, I have an idea. Afterwards, I will tell. What also surprised us is how well the WordPress plugin team worked. because, you know, we as a company are earning money thanks to all of this, right? We need this data. And the WordPress plugin team is a team of volunteers. And they probably were surprised that suddenly on their email they started getting hundreds of emails every day. So first of all, thank you so much that you didn't block us, because yes, I would understand it, and that they were closing all our requests very quickly. So like by the time it was like 1-2 days since our initial report for them to close it, and if they couldn't find also a contact, because they very often also couldn't contact the authors, the plugin got closed. So in the end, WordPress got safer during those 2 months, right? That's a good thing. But like I said, first of all, users weren't notified about the fact that they might be using a plugin that is already removed from the repository. That is something that should change. Will it change? I don't know. I mean, we waited 12 years, maybe in the next 12, who knows? Another thing is, although this is slightly changing, I feel that security researchers and the work that they are doing isn't seen as WordPress contribution. I would even say that we had some cases when we were treated with hostility. They thought that we are trying to destroy their business by hacking their plugins. That's not the thing. We are trying to help you. We are just giving you a chance to fix it. Sadly, like I said, we had quite a few of those responses. So I do think that really security researchers should also get much more credit, because those are amazing people. And I was very surprised, really, by hanging out with them, how the mind of the developer and the security researchers work in a different way. Because let's be honest, we as developers, because I'm more on the developer side, we are mostly trying to create stuff, while security researchers are more on the QA side of, you know, finding the way how to destroy things. And that's great, because we need people like this to find errors in things that we are doing. So yeah, having some reward for them would be great. Okay, this slightly changed, that's why the asterisk in the end. So finally, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, on WordPress.org, the automated check of every update that is happening to your plugin was rolled out. It happens a bit in the background. You don't see what is happening. You are just being informed if something goes wrong. So it's something. Probably it's based on the code sniffer that is used in WordPress, so we're not sure how good it is, but still, after all those years, we think it's a great step forward, and we hope that based on this, some auto checks that are happening in the background when you not only try to add the plugin to the repository, but every time you update it, yeah, it will get better. So it's a step in the right direction. And like I said, all the security teams in WordPress, they're volunteers. They are small. And they can only kind of do reactive work, like when we were doing the whole reporting, and in some cases we're just forwarding some things to them. In the perfect world, it would be great if they could do it. But for this, they would need to be financed in a different way. So still, they are amazing, and without them, WordPress wouldn't be in this place when we are. I mean, 7 vulnerabilities in the core, that's a great score. They're doing tremendously well. So things you should remember about making sure that your plugin has an easy way to contact you, and make sure that your emails are working, forms are working, everything. The thing that I mentioned about the repository. The fact that you are installing the plugin from the official repository in terms of security means nothing. That's it. You still have to do your own research. There are databases like PatchStack, like WordFences, like WP Scans, when you can see the history of all vulnerabilities connected to a plugin. Based on those databases, you can learn how the company handled those vulnerabilities, where they're fixed, how quick were they fixed. It's a great source of information. So every time when you install a new plugin, make sure to do a research, because the fact that you are installing it from the official WordPress repository means nothing. So remember about it. And about the contact, remember. Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. You can sign up for my newsletter if you would like to kind of get some information from time to time about security, other CMSs, a lot of things. And you will have my email to talk with me. So, thank you.
Thank you much. A lot of very valuable insights.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. I love the gamification
Yes, it is cool.
logic you use it.
It is
I
cool.
love it.
It is cool and it works.
Great words. We have time for one question.
And you can ask more in the hallway, don't worry.
Okay.
Ah.
Thanks for the speech. One question. With the new introduction of AI tools that are automating a part of the review and so on, do you think that an automated, large approach to plugin review on a store like this one could make a significant step in the general security?
So we tried. We tried because at some point PatchSec launched a scanner. After a year, we learned that it's not that simple. PHP is very problematic in terms of AI scanning. So probably at some point, AI will help us. I mean, AI already can help us with explaining the code because the researchers are looking at not their own code, so they are. So for sure, it will help at some point. But while there already are some security scanners for JavaScript and they work pretty well, with PHP, it's a big problem because of its dynamic nature. So, of course, it will probably be solved at some point, and it would be great that AI would be able to take care of those, let's call it simpler vulnerabilities that are not directly connected to logic, and leaving the difficult logical ones that require some really creative thinking, or for example, that require using a few plugins, because when we would scan a plugin, we would scan them in kind of sandboxes. And sometimes the vulnerability happens when we connect few things. So at some point, probably it will start helping us more and more, but not yet, sadly.
Thank you again, and again another applause.
Thank you. Thank you.